My name is Drew Smith, and this is my mini keg ball valve tap system. I'm going to show you how I put it together, but first we're going to give it a test and make sure that everything works. And this system, it works using the same type of setup that you would use on a 5-gallon keg, only I've used some equipment here to modify it to be able to use on one of these mini kegs. Let's give it a test here. Look at that. It's working like a charm. Of course, I'm only pouring water here because, well, when I do these tests, sometimes everything doesn't always work out perfectly, and I would hate to waste good beer. Now, I'm going to show you how I put this system together and how you can do the same. Now let's go ahead and go through all of our equipment that we will be using. Of course, I've got the mini keg here. I've got a CO2 tank. This is for a paintball gun, so it's a smaller CO2 tank, but it can still be used with a regular dual gauge CO2 regulator. I've got some tape here that we're going to put around these threads just to make sure that everything is airtight. I've got some electrical tape as well. I've got a threaded T. Now this is a 1/4 inch threaded T, and this is the centerpiece of the system. Everything's going to be coming and connecting to this. I've got a 1/4 inch nipple. This is a 2-inch plastic 1/4 inch nipple. I've got a bung. This nipple will go into the bung, and then of course this bung goes into the keg. I've got 1/4 inch vinyl tubing that we're going to use as the dip tube. And then I've got these posts, and these are ball valve posts. They have 1/4 inch threads on them that can fit into this 1/4 inch threaded T. These connect, of course, to the ball valves. And this is a great system because you can use a ball valve system that you would use on a regular keg, but now we can use it in the mini keg. Very exciting. Gas line out of the CO2 dual gauge regulator, and then we've got the liquid line out with the ball valve connection on the end there. And then I've got a cup full of soapy water here. At the end, we'll check and make sure that everything is airtight. Now let's go ahead and work on putting the system together. It's really easy. If you can screw in a screw, you're going to be good to go here. First thing that I want to do is get everything taped up so it's going to be airtight. So anything with a thread on it is going to be taped up except for one end of the nipple that's going down into the keg, into the bung here. You don't need to thread that part. So you're only going to thread half of the 2-inch nipple there. Go ahead and do that there. Great, so now everything's taped up so it'll be nice and airtight when we put the system together. Now before I put this into the system here, I want to make sure that these fit on the ball valve pretty good. So I'm going to test out here and see which one fits better in each one. So that one fits better in the black one, and this one fits better in the white one. And I have had a problem where one fits better in the other. So I like to test that first, so it'll just make it easier when I put the system together. So since that fits better in the white one, and the white one is the the liquid line out, I'm going to make sure that this one goes on the top, and that means that this one is also going to be my dip tube. So let's go ahead and measure out the tube that we'll be using for a dip tube here. We've got the vinyl tubing. I got this at Lowe's. It was $1.88 for 10 feet. So it's really cheap, and it's going to be a great dip tube because I can cut it to length. Let's get our mini keg over here and measure how much we're going to need. So it's going to go down into the bottom of the dip tube, and it's going to come up a little ways. So this is going to be here, and then this is going to be on top of that. So it's probably going to be a good 2 to 3 inches above the top of the keg there. So I want to make sure that I get a long enough tube. And then also you have to assume that it's going to bend a little bit. Once you can get this out of the roll and stretch it out, it'll straighten out eventually, but it's always a good idea to cut off a little bit more than you need. And by a little bit more, I mean like, oh, I don't know, 6 inches, like twice, well, maybe not twice as much, but a good amount more than you'll need there, just at start. So that's going to work there. And then I did forget to mention that you're going to need scissors for this. So we've measured off how much we need of this vinyl dip tube there. We can cut that off. Now, this needs to go into that hole there. And the problem is that it goes, but it goes a little too good. For that, I'm going to use the electrical tape. So you don't need a lot of this, just one spin, maybe 2 spins around the tube will be good for you. So just pull off about 2 inches here and cut your electrical tape there, and then put that on the end of your would-be dip tube here. Oh, you know what, you can bring it down a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. And now, there we go. So there you go. That is going to work for our dip tube here. And it's just the simple post. And then the next part is getting our assembly together. Essentially, our tap system that is going to go into the keg here. We'll take our 1/4 inch threaded T, and the dip tube can go on either end here. Whichever one it goes into will ultimately be the top. And then we can go ahead and start threading it in. And voila, you just get some friction on there. All right, that's as good as I can get with my hands there. And then, so this piece will go down into the beer, and then here, we're going to come into the side. This is going to be the gas in. So, let's twist that on as much as you can with your hands. We'll probably have to bust out the pliers here and make sure to get a really nice, tight seal there. And then, the last part of the system, you get the nipple on there, and that can go up to the bottom here, and we will get that screwed in there best you can with your hands. Now you could try to go ahead and twist these nuts here and get that rubber gasket on the end there, but this system really wasn't made for use how we're using it, so that's probably not going to work. So I'm just going to go ahead and loosen that up, because that way if we do spring a leak, it's going to be easier to test for, and I'll probably be loosening it up anyways. Might as well go ahead and start off the right way. Now, the last thing before we get it into the keg here, I'm going to tilt the camera a little bit here, get a good working system here, is to get the bung into the keg first, if you can. It's nice and tight. There we go. Of course, it's going to give me trouble when I'm recording it. Embarrass me in front of my friends here. All right, now one last time, just kind of tightening everything up as much as I can with my hands. And then this would also be a good point for you to kind of test your dip tube and see how far it goes down, and then you can cut any excess off that you want to at this point. But let's get the system together first. These little things like cutting off the dip tube to a specific length, things that can be done really easily afterwards. Now, I put the rubber bung in first, and then you got some nice leverage here with this system. It's nice and stout. Everything's pretty much metal except for that nipple there, but even that nipple is made of really high dense plastic. So you see what I did there? I just kind of get it in and you kind of twist it and work it in there. And I just get it into the bung down to the threaded part. So theoretically, the only part that's in the bung is the flat part, making it nice and airtight in there. Perfect. Now we've got the tap on top of the keg. Now let's go ahead and put the CO2 regulator together. Now this is your standard dual gauge CO2 regulator, but this blue piece here, this is an adapter that will allow me to use a smaller CO2 tank like this paintball gun CO2 tank. There's a brand new one here that I've got, so I'm just gonna take it apart here. And now I gotta make sure that my CO2 dual gauge regulator is off and get it connected. Best way that I found is to lay it down and screw it in. I'll get you going here. So I just hold the regulator and slowly screw this together. watch and see if the numbers go. Looking at that gauge on the left. There we go. Sounds good. Now, we've got gas. We're good there. Let's get everything connected to the mini keg here. Tilt you back up. Take a little ride with me here. How's that? Is that in the middle of the screen there? So again, this is the gas in. Everything goes into the system. It's airtight up here, so the only way for the gas to go is down. We'll get the ball valve part of the gas line connected up here. This is all very exciting because once I get this set up, it's going to be so easy to brew beer using a mini keg. And the reason that I'm doing this again is because I don't have a lot of room. I've got a townhome. We don't have a lot of space for a kegerator or anything. So there you go. Everything is all set up. In my experience, we're going to have to go back and check for leaks and find those and tighten everything up with a wrench, but who knows? We might get lucky here. The next step is going to be to turn on the gas here for the CO2 tank. So that's that top gauge. We're going to take a look there. First thing you want to do is make sure your tap is closed. It is closed there. And now we're going to listen closely as we first get the gas, the pressure up, then we'll let it into the tank. So we're working here a little less than, let's go 5-ish, 8-ish PSI, and then we'll turn the valve here to get it going. Gas is good. Hey yo, there we go. And you see the tap is there, and so no leaks there. Let's open it up, and now we can open it up a little more. Let's get up to 10 here. Nice, we're at 10 and holding. Now let's go ahead and check out the top part of the system here. Let's see what's going on. First test is to listen. You know, that sounds pretty good. It actually sounds pretty tight. It might be leaking a little, but here's how we test it. Again, I've got my soapy water that I talked about earlier, and I'm just going to brush that on here. And the leaks will, of course, blow bubbles. And there's our leaks. So just as I assumed here, if I can, I'll take the camera off and show you where those leaks are. They're around the part where the ball valve thread, this is the post here, the ball valve post goes into the tab, the threaded T there. It looks like we've got a leak both on the top and the bottom. Well, let's look at the base here. We don't have any blowing bubbles. Nice. So we're back. I went ahead and took it apart. I put some more tape around the threads here, and then I put everything back together and tightened it up real good before putting anything on it with my pliers here, just to make sure everything was nice and tight before I even got started. So I added a bunch more tape on the threads here, and then I went ahead and tightened everything down real good before we get started. So let's go ahead and see if that went ahead and fixed our problem. That did it. I don't hear anything. When you put your ear to it, you can hear the gas going into the keg. That keg is filled up here, but just for safe measure, of course, we're gonna brush on here. Nice, heck yeah. And there you go. And the cool thing about this is that you've got your ball locks. So if you've already got a keg system, this is gonna make it really easy to make an adapter here, and then you can use these mini kegs. And as far as cost goes, it's not going to be that expensive. This piece in the middle here, this threaded T, was about $6. And then the nipples you can get for $1 or $2, and then the vinyl tubing was $1.88 for 10 feet. And then you could also, at this point, I'm pretty sure that you could just use a standard stainless steel dip tube, and you would have to, of course, cut it to length. There you have it, easy peasy. And now you can use a mini keg as a regular keg using a ball lock system. Ooh, that's exciting. If you did like this video, I've got other videos on mini kegs and ways to use them as far as reusing old mini kegs, carbonating them, and then I've got another system, a different way to do this that does not use the ball valve. It just uses a different intake, and of course the gas out is a little bit different, so you don't have to buy these ball valves. But for the links, I will put links to the kit here that I got the ball valves on eBay, of course, with those posts as well. And then if you have any questions, you can shoot me those questions, and I'll put some links to some of the other videos that I did on these mini kegs. Again, my name is Drew Smith. Thanks for watching.